Everyone knows how the rain washes away dirt from the streets. But no one ever imagined how the rain can wash you straight into your destiny. And destiny doesn't always come with a smile, it comes with secrets, jealousy, and battles you never asked for. This is the story of Lucy, the girl who thought she was just looking for a job, until fate placed her right in the middle of a storm that was much bigger than the rain outside. Lucy clutched her worn-out folder of CVs like it was a lifeline. But of course it had to seem that way to her because she was drenched in the rain with the CV unprotected. And she had no means of making other copies. What could anyone in her situation do? The dark cloud gave evidence of persistent downpour, yet there was no sign of a possible rainfall. Something big was coming. Something great was in the offing, which will change her entire life in great significance. But unknown to her. What was known to her at that moment was the spell of poverty that kept reminding her that she was a fatherless daughter of a single mother that had sacrificed her all to sponsor her education. And now that is time for a reward, labor market seemed to have turned against her. The city was alive, buses honking, street hawkers gradually showing up at the early hours of that morning, people rushing in different directions. Then, the sky darkened, and within minutes, the heavens broke open. Tiny drizzling became a downpour, and heavier than normal. She had no umbrella, no jacket, nothing. By the time she stumbled in front of a tall glass front building, she was drenched, her hair plastered to her face, and she was visibly trembling in the cold. On the glass wall of the building, the sign boldly read, Apex Holdings. The kind of place she didn't even dare to dream of stopping by, let alone be allowed to take refuge in front of. Yet, here she was. Forced by what was generally accepted as unfortunate circumstance, but a calculated push by the hand of fate. Gradually, one after another, the workers of the company weathered the downpour and ran into the building. No body spared her any attention. And nobody knew that she was not just an ordinary girl, taking covers. An elderly security guard, seeing her struggle, waved her over. "Come, my daughter, don't stand there, you can't remain in the rain," the man said. Some simple favors and humanitarian outreach are just what they were meant to be. A divinely guided step in the right direction. So, Lucy stood at the edge of destiny, dripping water on the tiles of the entrance door to the security post of the company she had never imagined entering. She couldn't sit on the plastic chair that was offered to her because she was soaked to the skin. She remained standing in the cold breeze until the rain subsided. Noting the different men and women in fashionable outfit that had entered the building that morning. Then came the moment that changed everything. A sleek black car pulled up. The driver rushed to open the door. Out stepped a man in sharp suit, measured steps, the kind of presence that made time slow. This was Ademola Lucasen, CEO of Apex Holdings. He glanced at her once but didn't say a word. And just before he entered the glass door of the building, he made a subtle less obvious effort to have one more glance at the girl. But 2 hours later, when the rain had eased, he came back out to attend to matters in the lobby. This time, he looked closer. And Lucy, still cold and wet, fragile, clutching her folder, looked back with fear and quickly turned away. Something unspoken passed between them. And just like that, the rain had introduced Lucy to a world she wasn't ready for. She should have been gone but needed her drenched clothes to loosen up a bit before she hit the road. The rain had stopped, but Lucy's life had already shifted course. She sat quietly at the edge of the security post, shivering in her damp clothes. Her folder of documents now a soggy mess. She was already thinking of how to slip away before anyone important noticed her. But fate had other plans. The glass doors slid open. It was him again, the man from earlier. Ademola Lucasen. The CEO. His eyes fixed on her as he approached. And for the first time, he spoke. "You'll catch a fever out here, young woman. Are you waiting for someone out here?" He asked her, but before she could answer, the security man jumped in defense, in order not to incur the wrath of the CEO for allowing Lucy to take cover from the rain, in the company's property. "Sorry sir, she was standing out here in the rain and was completely drenched, so I called her here to leave the rain. She is not here for anybody in particular, sir." "Come inside," the CEO said in a tone that sounded less of a request but more of an order. Lucy froze. Inside? Into Apex Holdings? She wanted to protest, to explain she was just a job seeker caught in the rain. But his voice carried a quiet authority that left no room for refusal. She followed hesitantly. Way beyond her imagination, the lobby was grand, polished marble floors that reflected light like water, chandeliers that sparkled with quiet power. She felt completely out of place in her soaked clothes, leaving small puddles on the floor. She felt guilty of the stains she was leaving on the floor and struggled against the urge to stop walking and clean them up. Still, Ademola didn't seem to mind. "Sit," he said, gesturing to a couch. "I'll have someone bring you tea." But Lucy didn't know tea to feel right to her. She knew food. Something solid that can fill the stomach and sustain her for hours. A hot food was perfect for the weather and would serve a double impact. For a moment, Lucy wondered if she was dreaming. CEOs didn't notice people like her. They didn't invite drenched strangers inside their world. But little did she know that it wasn't just the CEO that noticed her, someone else did. From across the lobby, a pair of sharp eyes followed every move. Zara. Zara was everything Lucy was not: elegant, perfectly styled, with an aura that spoke of money, influence, and possession. And then, the beauty. And right there and then, Zara watched the scene unfolding with fire simmering beneath her smile. To Zara, Lucy wasn't just some soap stranger. She was someone that had just prompted her instinct to be on guard. Could be an intruder, a danger, a threat, and perhaps, a rival, but way too young. Ademola handed Lucy a warm cup of tea. "Rest here until you're better," he said. But to Lucy, the kindness felt heavier than the storm outside. She remained standing with the cup of tea in her hand. Before Look Man could insist again that she sat on the couch, she slowly took one step after another and sat on a small side stool at the corner. Ademola understood why and kept quiet as he continued working. Lucy took one gentle sip after another and kept her admiration of the office to herself. Because in that kindness was an invitation into a world she didn't belong. And in Zara's eyes, that invitation was unforgivable. The next morning, her phone rang. The number was unknown. When she answered, a calm but official voice spoke. "This is Apex Holdings. Mr. Lucasen requests that you come in." Her heart nearly stopped. She thought it was a mistake. On reflection, she remembered that she did not spoil anything, nor break anything before she left. She left in his presence. Is he calling her to come and collect back her CV that he forced her to leave behind? Her thinking went wild. Could it be a mistake? But it wasn't. When Lucy walked through the glass doors of Apex Holdings again, this time dry and neatly dressed, she felt the stares. Receptionists paused. Staff members whispered. They all wondered the same thing: who is she, and why has the CEO summoned her? Ademola met her in his office this time. An expansive space lined with bookshelves, city views stretching beyond the windows. He studied her with calm intensity. "I want to give you a chance," he said. "A position here in Apex. Nothing too heavy at first, just a start. But from what I saw in your file, you have a drive. You deserve a foot in the door." It felt unreal. A job in this company? Lucy could hardly breathe as she accepted. The old man at the gate was overjoyed. Not because she got a job, but he has been vindicated from his fear of letting the CEO to see him with a little girl at his duty post. But not everyone shared her joy. From the hallway, Zara stood, watching secretly, a smile that never reached her eyes. She already made fruitless inquiries about Lucy the previous day. Later that evening, Zara's voice dripped with venom. She thinks she can just walk in here because of the rain. No. If Ademola won't push her out, I will. Every workplace has its rhythm, conversations in hallways, footsteps echoing through lobbies, the quiet hum of ambition. But at Apex Holdings, Lucy quickly realized the rhythm wasn't welcoming. It was watching her. Her first week was filled with awkward stares. Colleagues whispered as she passed, some with curiosity, others with suspicion. One evening, as the office emptied, she overheard voices. Zara's voice, smooth and sharp like glass, "She's not here by merit. Don't you see?" Ademola felt pity for her, but pity doesn't last. And when it's over, she'll fall harder than she ever rose. Meanwhile, Ademola seemed to keep a careful distance. Yet Lucy caught moments when his gaze lingered too long, as if he saw something in her that even she didn't understand. What Lucy didn't know was that Ademola carried secrets of his own. The rainstorm hadn't just reminded him of chance, it had reminded him of loss. It reminded him of a younger sister who once dreamed like Lucy, but whose dreams were cut short. As reality began to unfold, Lucy began to realize, she wasn't just navigating a new job. She was walking through a web. A web spun by Zara's jealousy, tangled with hidden motives, and held together by secrets that hadn't yet been revealed. Zara's resentment had grown too heavy to hide behind her smiles. Her mind was weaving a plan. One Friday afternoon, Lucy was assigned to assist with a confidential set of company's financial documents. The kind of information that required trust and discretion. She worked carefully, organizing them, channeling and concealing accordingly. But what Lucy didn't know was that someone had slipped something into the files. A forged document. The following Monday, chaos erupted. Who approved this? Mr. Fred, the admin manager, barked. Lucy's blood ran cold. It was the file she had worked on. "I never saw that page. I swear," she cried. But her protests fell against hardened faces. She was the only person entrusted with the file in just one day. The document in question had a forged approval of a transfer in close to $1 billion. The accountant intercepted the transfer at the bank because it was yet to be processed at the bank. The document got to the bank at the close of work on Friday evening. But the landslide draining attempt on the company's account was not just criminal, but vicious, and must be properly handled and dealt with, accordingly. Lucy, and all the senior staff members were summoned to the boardroom and surrounded by policemen, with the company's lawyer in attendance. Lucy's eyes were red and sorrowful. No evidence to vindicate her, but every reason to implicate her. Ademola stood silently as the accusations swirled, his expression unreadable. Lucy's chest tightened as every interrogation ended with no trace and no confession. Nothing. She was the prime suspect and was led away in police custody. But if only she knew that it was just a price she needed to pay for open doors. The entire members of staff were quiet and gloomy atmosphere pictured a company in mourning. Opinion were divided but kept individually. By the following day, everyone reconvened in the boardroom, including Lucy, who was in handcuffs. About an hour into another round of interrogation, there was tension in the room. Mr. Ademola had not spoken any word since the incidents, but his mind was calmly and totally immersed. Sitting at the head of the table, he watched his members of staff. One after the other. He observed that they were all scared and unsure of what next. Then he noticed one person, Zara, in the shadows. Zara just sat and watched, her lips curling into a cruel smile. Mr. Ademola stood up and everywhere became instantly silenced. He picked up the paper, scanned it once more, then turned his eyes. First to Lucy, then to Zara. "This signature doesn't match," he said calmly. "And from my observation, Lucy is meticulous to an extent. This was meant to frame her." Then he dropped the forged document on the table and quietly walked over and stood by the window, thinking. The moment he stood by the window, something happened. Everything happened. All that was hidden, and all that was meant to be. The last dance of fate and destiny. His attention took a dive to a scene at the entrance gate. But he dismissed it as trivial. What was important right then was the matter at hand, in the company boardroom. Again, he found himself distracted by the scene at the entrance gate. A young woman having an argument with the security man. Instead of sending someone to find out what was happening, Mr. Ademola decided to take a walk to the gate to temporarily distract his mind from the proceedings in the boardroom. As he approached the gate, his breath hastened. The young woman at the gate gradually became familiar. And there she was. Susan. She really was Susan. Tired, worn out, desperate, pleading with exhaustion. Ademola stood beside her, but she didn't notice him until the security man started making excuses to him. Susan. Ademola said heavily in one breath. She turned her head, but looked away, back the security man that she believed to have answers to her immediate need. The whereabouts of her daughter. But something struck inside of her and she paused, quiet, turned around. She saw him. She gasped, her eyes probing with a flash of confusion on her face. Her guess a discovery. Demola, you work here too? She asked with despair. What are you doing here? What is going on here? Mr. Ademola asked. My daughter, she works here but she didn't come home last night. The security man said that she is inside but he wouldn't let me see her, she pleaded almost with tears. Come inside please. Ademola guided her and led the way towards the door. Who is your daughter, what is her name? He asked as he helped her to a seat at the reception. Lucy. Her name is Lucy, she said, and Ademola was surprised to discover that. Lucy is your daughter, he sounded more like an exclamation than a question. Please, help me get her. I need to see her, she pleaded, and Ademola comforted her and made her to feel relaxed and told her to wait for him. As he turned to leave, she said, Demola. She is your daughter. He turned slowly as his head suddenly became too heavy for his neck to carry. His breath missed its rhythm. The magnitude of his shock got him completely transfixed. His mind flashed back to their days in high school. Susan was his high school sweetheart. Well known and popular in school. Everyone admired them as a couple. She gave him his best years to remember in high school. Susan got pregnant for him and her rich parents withdrew her from school and sent her away to stay with her auntie in the village. Ademola gave up his search for her whereabouts after a year of fruitless effort. You didn't look for us. You should have at least looked for me. She interrupted his thought. Lucy is my daughter. Ademola dragged the words, but before she could speak any further, Mr. Fred, his admin manager, came to him. Sir, there is something you need to see and it is very urgent. Mr. Ademola excused himself and went with Mr. Fred to the CCTV room and revealed a video footage of how Zara planted the forged document among the files on Lucy's desk. Then they headed back to the boardroom. Remove the handcuffs from Lucy immediately, he almost yelled from the door. He stood at the door for some seconds, looking directly at Lucy as if scanning her and trying not to miss any detail. Then he moved closer and hugged her tightly for a brief seconds and whispered, My daughter, I am so sorry. Gasps filled the room, and Lucy was lost in confusion. Zara's smile faltered. Ademola moved over and stood by his seat. His words were clear, some people go to dangerous lengths when their pride is threatened. He said and ordered Mr. Fred to play back the footage to everyone in the boardroom and Zara's secret was exposed. And while the video was still playing, the accountant came into the boardroom with two bank officials and revealed their findings. The destination account was traced to Anthony Tentata, a 10-year-old nephew of Zara, living with Zara in House 75B, Greentuff Crescent. As gasps and murmurs filled the boardroom, Mr. Ademola moved slowly with an aura of a predator and stood in front of Zara, who was already in handcuffs. "What if you had known that Lucy was my daughter? My biological daughter," he said, and then turned and walked over to a still confused Lucy and led her out of the boardroom, leaving behind a dizzying fog of shock and surprises in the boardroom. Ademola sat Lucy down in his office and brought her mother to join them in his office. Then he went back to the boardroom and directed the police to do the needful as the law demanded. Zara left the office in handcuffs in the custody of the police. Sitting with her mother in Mr. Ademola's office, Lucy's eyes stung with tears. She finally understood, it wasn't pity that brought her here, she thought. It was destiny. And so, what began as a desperate job hunt in the rain had transformed into something far greater. A new beginning. Fate doesn't end with one twist. It waits, silent, patient, for the next storm.
Please subscribe to this channel for more interesting tales. Stay blessed.